I dropped per user scale pricing in my B2B startup and adopted a done with you offer. And in 90 days, I went from 30,000 recurring revenue to 1.5 million. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make one simple pricing change with your business, as long as you're willing to be bold and get your hands dirty. Now, first I want to jump into what's at stake. Selling scale per user pricing is what the startup dream is for software as a service businesses or AI native businesses. I thought the same too, and spent over 2 years smacking my head against the wall, offering about $1 to $10 per user and getting stuck under 100K, hovering around the 30K and churning a lot when it came to our software pricing. I had a very lucky moment where I was in a meeting, we were running out of cash. We'd raised about $1 million, but we're getting down to our last few bucks effectively. And I was talking to a client and they wanted to buy our scale per user pricing for 5,000 people. So it was going to be a big earner. But they said something to us really simple, which was like, hey, this is exactly what you need, but we're not ready to buy yet. And we asked them a really simple question. What would it take for you to buy on Monday? The response was a skill framework, someone that could teach us how to run effective implementation boot camps, and last but not least, a really particular part of training. Now, all of the things that person just said were actually available in the software. And I just said, hey, if we could do that for you from Monday to Friday next week, how much would you be willing to spend? The guy literally turned around and said, we give you an extra $1 million to do that. We haven't found anyone else that can do that. We know the cost of doing it ourselves. And honestly, one of the main reasons we haven't started is we just don't have the time. And then voila, our business model from our software as a service went from unlimited hiring and unlimited training at a cost per user across a whole business to let's get your first skills-based hire trained and a whole part of your business trained with a done with you offer. It's really important that two things come out of this. One, you've got to be willing to get your hands dirty in an implementation. It can't just be training the customer to use your software. And two, you've got to be bold enough to shift away from scaled pricing that every VC is looking for. And to understand that, I'd love to tell you what's at stake. If you do make the shift from a scaled per user pricing to a done with you offer, you'll not only get bigger deal sizes. With bigger deal sizes, you'll get better LTV. If you do harder work because of a bigger deal size, so it's an implementation, you'll actually get better referrals. And if the deal size grows, you'll attract better talent. On the other side, if you use scaled per user pricing, it might be an endless grind where you never have the capital. You're always at the bequest of the next investor and VC round. And although it looks good on a piece of paper, for the majority of B2B businesses, they require a workflow transformation. And so per user pricing being SaaS generally only works for a point solution. So whether you like it or not, you might be stuck there for a very long time until the market changes its workflows and then just uses your tool to get there faster. So in short, there's a lot at stake. You can either get out of the valley of despair with others, your customers, doing harder work, or you can stay there feeling good about your next VC meeting and just hoping the market speeds up to where your innovation is. My bet is that you should take a done with you offer tomorrow if you're doing anything that's not a point solution that already has a mature market. So if you're changing behavior, you're changing workflows, a done with you offer is a great way to do it. And I'm about to walk you through how I did it, moving it from 30,000 at the start of 90 days all the way through to 1.5 million in recurring revenue. And then how we use the same model to get to 38 million in recurring revenue 24 months later. So let's break it down, starting off with what's good about scaled pricing, why it works, when it works, and when it doesn't work, and what it leads to, and what's good about done with you offers, of why it works, and when it doesn't work, and how you can make it work for your business. Let's jump in. So when I first started selling my software as a service, I was at effectively a really cost per user pricing. You could either buy it unlimited for $10,000 a year across an organization. We mainly sold to a huge enterprise. Or you could buy it at a per user basis, per training, or per test. And we got really stuck around this number for a long period of time. And even though we raised a chunk of money, it was running out. The other thing that it led to was a whole bunch of resentment. Because no one ever used the software, they spent some internal credit points to buy it. And because it was never adopted, people got really shitty with us. So there was a brand consequence to it as well. The reason we did it is that every investor wants it. But the other thing too is we built this beautiful software. We wanted as many people to access it. So giving it a low cost per user is a great way to show, hey, look at the scale that we can reach with our bold new software. In short, it feels good. And so we sold it that way for a long time about look how good we are compared to every major HR enterprise software that does nothing. And you do feel good because you can give pretty much everyone access, which really amplifies your ability to do engineering or build a product. But the problem was when you sell something to a big enterprise and they're not ready to use it, is that no one uses it. And although you get a few ticks, you just end up, like I said before, in this space of resentment. And what we worked out and we came to the conclusion in reflection is that it's great for point solutions where there's a mature market and you can just help someone do something 10 times faster with the innovation that you've built. So they're looking for it, but you're just a faster, better, cheaper way of getting there. The majority of software, though, that has a big vision that requires a workflow change or behavior change, this does not work at all. Mainly because large organizations or even small organizations require an investment of real money in order to make a shift in how they work. 2, if it's not enough money being spent on it, then someone can't lose their job. So therefore, there's not enough at stake for the organization to change to use your software, even though it's a good idea with probably great ROI. And we got really lucky. The reason I got the confidence to say, hey, what would it take for us to do it on Monday, is that we kept getting our ass kicked by McKinsey when it came to talent transformation contracts. And one day, one of the partners turned around to me and said, hey, look, we beat you every time using the same themes that you use, and even though your tool's better because we've been able to review it, you're just not charging enough. He goes, so rather than charging per user, just do the change, run the change, and charge a lot more money. I had no idea what that meant at the time and smirked and smiled and walked away. But I had the opportunity in a meeting where we were running out of cash to amplify our offer. So we dropped the scale pricing and went with a done with you offer, which gave our customer effectively $500,000 worth of software and $1 million worth of implementation services to get the software accessible across their whole business. And that was what we called a transformational done with you offer. Now, the difference is that this is a high cost offer. It feels risky at the time, but it allows them to consider it as a bigger investment and to allocate time to their busy schedule. It forces them, because of those two things, to commit to the change. And because they've now committed to the change, I actually highlight what their real doubts are, which is they don't want to do alone. And as an entrepreneur, it leads into your strengths of being a leader, doing something bold. And so they can follow your lead when it comes to their transformation, which lowers the risk again to both parties. You're trying to do something new. They don't know how to do it. They know they need to change. You've got a bold idea. And for you, it's higher stakes. So you actually have to deliver it, and you'll work way harder than a big vendor to make the change happen than a big vendor will, because they've got a lot more projects and a lot more diversification. But you as the underdog, your sort of credibility, future reputation relies on this happening. Now, the result of shifting that offer was $30K down to $1.5 million. And the increase was higher lifetime value. So we still had an 80% margin, and we had a multi-year deal. It was 3 years, so renewed 3 times at 1.5. It's fantastic. It attracted greater talent because we had the ability to pay for better appointment setters and closers, so account executives. And last but not least, it led to better referrals because we actually followed the lead. They committed to the change and they spent the money. In short, if you actually slay the dragon for your customer, they committed to doing it and they spent the money to do it, and then you then achieve it, you get way more referrals of the same high-value clients that are stuck with the same transformational position. And you might say, well, they might not know each other. The answer is the world is quite small when you get to a certain level of working with SVPs in a vertical, and they probably do. Now, the great thing about all of this is that most people run at this done with you offer and go, hey, I did an implementation and it didn't work for a large enterprise client. What we found is that most implementations for that alongside transformational software follow customer onboarding, training, and customer success. That is not helping them change. That is just giving them more shit to do when they don't want to do it alone. So if you actually implemented the solution and the transformation alongside them in shared work. Hey, this is how you do something, now getting them to do it, but customizing it to their situation, then this becomes extremely valuable. The other thing it allows you to do is it allows you to sell the personalization, but give all the secrets out for free if someone wants to run their own transformation, drastically increasing your authority as a visionary around the transformation in the market. So if you had tried a big done with you offer for your software and all it was onboarding and training, then really all you've done is a scale per user pricing with extra work for the customer. If you truly want to do a done with you offer, you have to get your hands dirty. You have to go into shared work. You have to meet your customers where you are and actually help them run the transformation. The deeper you go into the problem, the bigger the dragons that you get, the more dragons you get from the customer and the more they refer. So trust me, it is really worth your time to do it. Now you're probably looking at all this and going, holy shit, I just wanted to build a software company, AI native company. I want to run a sort of cool life. I want to lay back. I want to be flexible. For most B2B software businesses and services business, that's not what it is. You're getting paid to do something hard. The harder it is, the more juice you get in return or the more gold. And so I'd much rather get way harder things done earlier in my business and convince a market to change to where I am with my tool. Then later on, when I realize no one's using my tool, I spend a shitload of money and nothing's changing. Now, if you are worried though about making the shift from a scale per user pricing to a done with you offer, and you're worried about a big promise of actually helping them achieve the transformation in a certain amount of time, then this can be easily overcome by offering a service guarantee alongside your done with you offer. Effectively, here is the dream outcome. Here are all the services you get for us to support your implementation and shared work. Here is the goal that we've got for the dream outcome. If you don't hit that time goal, you just keep continuing the services as long as the customer commits to the change. If the customer doesn't commit to the change, you should have in your contract that you can drop off. Generally, this doesn't happen because if you solve this the right way, they've committed to the change, they'll follow your lead, and you just have to turn up and be willing to get your hands dirty to do it. That is why I stress to nearly every B2B services or tech, SaaS, AI native B2B startup that rather than try to run a scaled per user pricing across a lot of customers, you should always lean into a done with you offer where you go for a bolder transformation and getting the shared work with your customers. Not only will it drastically increase the amount of revenue and profitability that you will earn, it will get you referrals, it will get you lifetime value, and all that compounds to better salespeople selling more stuff and more customers seeking transformation. The great thing about it too is once you get enough customers through your done with you transformational experience, your product will improve, your services will improve, and the market will catch up because they'll see you leading people in a different direction. And guess what? The great thing about that is that you can then go back to scale per user pricing once you transform enough customers and enough people have enough knowledge in your community to self-fulfill. But I would suggest that if you are pushing scale per user pricing, you probably just feel good for people accessing the beautiful product that you've got, and you're probably brokey and stuck in this environment where you can't scale it unless you've nailed a point solution at a point in time where people just want to go faster and cheaper. For the majority of B2B startups, that's not the case. Lean into bolder problems, offer a transformational solution, drastically increase your revenue, and don't rely on what VC compliments do to you and make you feel to actually get your business ahead. Launch a done with you offer, drop the scale per user pricing today.